Executive session.
Oh, yeah, I know you.
We're going to move into declare my intent. I'm sorry. I declare we are now in open session. And here it comes. The last one. We'll go very slowly. We're going to move into action items. Number one would be financial statements presented to us by Budget Chair Chris Rivera.
To accept financial statement.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, unanimous. Budget transfers.
I move that we accept the budget transfer.
Second.
Second by Fiona. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Andrew?
No.
You opposed? Opposed is Mr. Nardi. Approval of administrator's salary agreement.
Move that we approve the administrative salary agreement.
Second. Second by John. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Good. Approval of policy 6010, bullying prevention, intervention, and safe climate with the revision to section 10 on page 12.
So moved.
Ellen, Vincent. Any discussion?
I'm going to vote against only for the reasons that I normally have.
Your discussion was on the next one.
Right. I know.
Okay, all right. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Nardi. Approval of policy 6049, chemical health policy for student athletes.
So moved as presented.
Ellen and Vincent again. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Two opposed. Mr. Cavanero, Mr. Kane. Approval of the Board of Education bylaws.
So moved.
By Chris.
Second.
Second by William. Sorry. Discussion.
Are we going to discuss chairman and two board members per subcommittee, or three?
That's what I would like to amend the approval to include three, a chair and three, go back to a chair and three board members per standing committees.
Okay. Are you going to add, Mrs. Capabianca added during
Yes, I would
earlier
like to add
discussion,
the-
she added an
yes.
expulsion subcommittee?
I would like to add that also.
Okay, so approval of the Board of Education bylaws amending the standing committees to a chair and three, and adding a standing committee for expulsion. Chris, do you still have that motion?
Can I separate them? Because I want to discuss them separately. The expulsion versus the number. So I would move to accept it as written with the addition of the expulsion committee as the next standing committee.
Okay.
That's what I would like.
All right.
I will withdraw my second on
Okay. We have a second for Chris is approving the bylaws, adding the expulsion subcommittee, but not amending the number of people on the standing committee. All right. Your second? Okay. Chris, Fiona. Discussion. Chris.
It's very difficult to get the quorum sometimes, and you have to delay the start of the meeting until someone gets there. And when you have three committee members, I don't know why, because only two need to show up probably. You usually start on time, and you don't run the risk of not having a quorum. When you have four committee members, then you have to wait until the third person gets there. Most of us don't work in town, and I work in town, I can't get there on time all the time, so it does make for a more efficient, timely meeting. And people can come, I mean, other board members can come, you're just talking, it's only strictly to get the quorum. Anyone can come to any board meeting, or subcommittee meeting.
But you only have, I mean, you only, if your quorum was 2 people, then you'd be making a vote with
Well,
an
no
even
one
number.
votes, the only vote is what has changed.
It would still be, I mean, there would still be a vote. I mean, the only people that would be able to vote in a subcommittee would be the members of that subcommittee.
True. Only members of this actual standing committee can vote. Anyone can attend and participate, but only the standing members can vote.
But they're only voting to go to the full board, they're not making.
Right, no, I understand. It still has weight though. I mean, it's still.
I share Chris's concern only because we had so many problems and meetings not being able to go forward because people weren't showing up, that I'm concerned about that as well.
I think people should show up.
I do
If you're
too.
on a subcommittee, you
Right.
should show up for it, whether it's 3, 4, 10, whatever. I think you should show for it. It's your duty as a board. I would rather see 4 than 3.
But the only recourse we would have would be to cancel the meeting if you don't have a quorum, which then puts the people that do show up at the meetings to have to come out another night to have another meeting because they had to cancel because we didn't have a quorum.
When you're dealing with negotiations, then the union has to reschedule, there's just.
I'm just talking
Okay.
just the standing
Just the
committees.
standing.
Right.
So would an
Policy,
expulsion then be?
budget.
And you can still have the meeting, you wouldn't have, I mean, you just wouldn't vote on anything. You would still have the meeting, have
You
discussion.
can have the meeting, it's just not an
Yeah.
official meeting to move anything.
Right.
Correct.
Which means
It's not really.
You're gonna go through it all.
you're still
over
gonna
again.
have to meet at some point to get everything up to the board or table it.
All right, let me ask you a question. Being as we're going to do a self-evaluation on Tuesday night, do we want to table this for further discussion at that point, or do we want to bring it to a vote?
My suggestion would be to bring it to a vote and discuss it. You know, it can be,
It can always be
it
changed.
can always be changed.
Any discussion over here?
My only thought is I agree with Chris on that feeling on this one. Again, all you're doing is moving the information from the subcommittee to the full board for the full board's discussion anyway. Where the full board has to vote for it to become ratified. So I don't see whether it's 2 people, 3 people. I mean, most of us that show up to all the subcommittee meetings are there anyway. So I don't see what the difference is, whether it's 2 or 3, other than the fact that it's more expeditious with how many people can attend certain meetings. Because not all board members have that ability.
Right.
I mean, just to bring my concern earlier was that if we were on the same committee and it was 3 people, we would make a quorum, and if I were to call you up and ask you just something, just about the agenda, that alone would constitute an illegal meeting with 2 people being a quorum. I think that was sort of my concern with having 3 people in total in a committee.
Or just have board members show up.
That's my intention, right.
Good. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor? What are we doing?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We are voting to approve the bylaws as submitted with the addition of an expulsion subcommittee. Not changing, leaving the subcommittees a chair and 2 members, changing the start time of the meetings till 6 o'clock, and the cleaning up of the language for self-evaluation and setting the timeline that's outlined in that. So the only real change to it is adding this expulsion subcommittee up, change from what's in your packet.
Correct.
All right. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 2 opposed, Marola and. Okay. approval of Protected Harbor for the technology approving the RFP for Protected Harbor for technology services.
So
Chris, second.
Second.
Vincent. Okay. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Mr. Tebow has abstained. Okay, consent agenda.
I would like to pull an item out.
Okay.
I can do that, I take it. The special meeting minutes of the 16th.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion for the consent agenda minus item 2?
I will do that.
Before you make that, I would like one pulled as well, so how do you want to deal with that? Well, School Improvement Committee, once again, never approved those minutes yet, so the full board can approve that. So it'd be 5A.
We're technically just receiving them, and it notes that they are not approved.
It doesn't say that, it's an approval of subcommittee minutes.
Okay, all right, you want to remove 5A?
Yeah, and the history is written of this time period, public education.
You want to amend yours?
John, do you want to amend your motion?
I will amend this motion.
All right, to remove, all right, so it's approval of the consent agenda minus 2 and 5A. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Dan, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions, okay. Okay. Consent agenda approval of October 16th special education board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I will move to approve them, understand we will have discussion.
Well, we're going to have discussion. I just have to
I'd
get,
like to amend them, so
right, I just have to get them out there, get a motion, a second, and then you can,
Second.
second by Vincent. So John, Vincent. Discussion, John.
Okay, I'm not as concerned about posterity as Paul is, but more maybe about accuracy or completeness. I'm looking at the last page, first line. Mr. Kisco asked why he heard about tonight's meeting the day before. He was notified by Mr. Trout. The question, without your response, sounds rhetorical. Your response was you wanted to inform certain people that you wanted to be sure could be there. And that's why the information went out piecemeal. And I would like that included in the minute.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. Would you repeat that for Mrs. Politro so she could jot that down?
The response that Chairman Trout gave was that he needed to inform certain people to ascertain that they could be there on the change date, and that's the reason the information went out piecemeal.
Okay. Any further discussion on that meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Unanimous. Thank you. And do I have a motion for consent agenda 5A? Chris, second. Leona, discussion? This is to receive them. We can't approve them because the subcommittee has not approved them, okay?
Voting.
We're just voting to receive. Yep. Okay, Chris, Leona. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Nargi is opposed. Okay, brings us to Turf Committee. Approval of a representative from the board to sit on a Turf Committee, and that representative would be myself.
So moved.
Second, Chris. Vincent.
I'll second.
Motion by Chris, second by Paul.
Roll,
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Just kidding. All right. Comments for good of the order. Can we get a clean sheet of paper, Mr. Kisco?
I have a comment for the good of the order, and that's just to thank Mrs. Peterson for the time that she has spent as the chairman of the high school PTO. She was a tremendous help to me, and I would guess several other people, at least around this table, in providing information, and particularly in those ways in which she was concerned with the academic nature of the curriculum and the higher level academics. And I think we should thank her for that. I certainly thank her for that. And the rest of the remark is to welcome Mrs. Battle as the new chairman of the PTO, knowing that she will indeed continue the good work and the interest in high-level academics and other important parent commitments to the high school in her role. And I thank you for your willingness to take that on.
Mr. Merle?
I think this was a fantastic meeting. We had a lot of good news, the 4-year cohort, mastery test, tech grant, even the DMV report. There's lots of good information to make the headlines tomorrow, I think.
I'd like to recognize and commend the administration for getting on top of the website issue and providing the training that was necessary for our secretarial staff to be on it. And I look forward to all the information being up there, and
Inaccurate.
taxpayers are going to be happy to be informed. I think it's great. I would also just ask that the administration release the budget calendar as diversely as you can to everyone who will listen for it and receive it, especially to the individual PTOs and perhaps on the individual schools' websites, so that parents, taxpayers, friends, family, and anyone else can come to any and all budget meetings.
I just want to thank Paul and Biddy for all their years of service to the board. I think this is your last real meeting. But thank you for everything you've done. I know that you've changed, a lot of kids' direction here by your hard work on the board, and I appreciate it. And Biddy, been here long, but you put in your hours, and you've done a really great job attending meetings, showing up, and participating. So I appreciate all of the work you guys did.
And one's a question. Question is, students who were expelled from one school have now, I don't know if they have come to Torrington, if they have come to Torrington, they were expelled at one school, now they come to Torrington, they get a free slate so they can participate. Because I read an article about one of our students who was expelled for doing something wrong, and then the article stated that at his new school he would be participating in the football program there. So is that state law that, is there laws that say that if you're expelled from one school for a year and then you go to another school, you get a fresh slate?
It's up to the receiving school district. If a student is expelled from Torrington High School and I know they move to another district, I call that superintendent and share that the student has been expelled, the reason of the expulsion. And what that school district can do is uphold our decision, or they can review it and decide and amend it and change it if they want.
And you're saying that, so that's the rule, that's the rule of law, and no students have been expelled from other school districts who have come here and are now.
And they have remained expelled.
They have remained expelled.
We've had two.
Okay, great. And I didn't know the answer, I'm just asking
Yeah,
the
no,
question when I
and-
read that article.
And I know the student you're talking about, I did contact the school.
Okay, and then the second thing is, I would, being that it's Paul's last big meeting with the board here, I'd just like to state that I've been on the board for 6 years, and I would like to state that it's been one of the things that most impressed me about Paul when I got on the board was his ability and his desire to make all the board members feel free to discuss and express their opinions at these board meetings. He made people feel very comfortable doing that, and I feel that transferred over to Mr. Rubino's regime, because he saw that it was a good way as a chairman to act, and I believe Mr. Traub has done equally as good, but I think it's reflection upon the leadership that Mr. Cabanero showed as chairman of the board when he was chairman, to make these meetings for board members to feel comfortable in discussing whatever opinions they have. And going to be missed, and congratulations for being elected to the city council.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you.
Again, I would like to simply echo my fellow board members' responses to both Vincent and Paul. It's been a pleasure serving with the both of you. We may not have always agreed on every subject, but we've always been able to have a very spirited discussion. And without a discussion, you could never have knowledge. So I thank you very much for the two of you.
Paul?
Comments for the good of the order. I'd like to just, I'd like to make a few notes. I guess I was not actually expecting to do this tonight, but let's see. 10 years. I've served on 10 years. There's been a high turnover of board members. It's a thankless job. I must admit, I must say that of all the boards, this is composed of, I think, the most effective and overall committed team that I have had the honor of working with. I mean, everybody here has the commitment to making this a better school system is evident in every meeting and every discussion. I agree with, as these two members have alluded to, that this is a democratic process, and we have wildly different views on things, wildly different opinions. And it's always been my particularly once I started serving on the board for a period of time, I sort of intuitively felt this, and then actual practice of serving on a board and then chairing the board really brought it home that, you know, this populist idea that at the end of the day, the best decisions come from a number of people making good decisions, not one person or two people making great decisions. It's the common kicking the can down the road of an idea, to look at it from all sides and all angles, that produces, I think, the best policy and the best practice from the district, and I think this board reflects that. So I do apologize for those board members who have been offended by my outspoken ways. I will not apologize for any of the positions that I've taken or for the policies that I've tried to adopt. I've always tried to work in the best interest of the kids. I've never, ever, ever, ever not thought about those school buses that, again, as a single parent, having to drive my kids when they miss their bus, having to be behind school buses for many, 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 many years. I often think long and hard about those kids on those buses and their expectations and those parents' expectations, that what they are engaged in is a process of getting those kids, their most prized possessions, ready for the real world. And in the midst of all this data and all this information and all of these policies and money's being spent and jobs being created and people resign, in the midst of all that, you know, behind all that are 5,000 kids. And look to 10 adults. 10 adults to protect their futures. That's what we do, you know. And it's hard work. Typically little appreciated, but it needs to get done. And so I'd like to thank everybody I've served with who has made me a better board member, dished out a good dollop of humility when I've needed it, been supportive when I wanted it, and have hopefully are working sincerely toward keeping an open mind. That's what I would ask of my fellow board as I leave. Keeping an open mind and a critical mind to everything that's happening now in this world of public education. It's a very, very troubling time for me. I started with No Child Left Behind. I was 10 years younger and even cockier back then about my opinions. But I wasn't wrong about that. I wasn't wrong. And what I've come to learn over these 10 years is, this is a political argument, but it is what I believe, is that when all is said and done, the battleground, no matter what the specific is, you go through this agenda, and I could point it out a million times, no matter what it is, the battleground for boards of education going forward, for you, the next 10 people, to me, is all about wresting more local control over public education. In my heart of hearts, that is the core issue about whether or not you can produce a good education system for your town, for our town, this town, you know? And that's a huge, huge battle, as we all know. It is the fundamental battle. It is the fundamental battle. And I would just ask you to keep that at the forefront of your discussions and your analysis about what we are doing, why we are doing it. You know, when all is said and done, it goes back to, again, expanding that idea that when all is said and done, you don't have to have a town full of PhDs and you know, parents who are highly educated compared to the Simsburys and the Westports of the world to know what's best for their kids. You know, and I think we need to just be able to have confidence in them and trust a lot of what they want and a lot of what our fellow townspeople want, and not so much outside interests about what they want to define for these kids what's going to prepare them for a very, very difficult world economy, find themselves in that time. So once again, thank you very much. Do you want?
Okay. I would like to thank Mr. Cavanero for his 10 years, Mr. Marola for his 2 years. You two have been very valuable, and I think that committee reports, policy.
We're busy. Gap analysis, 504, homeless, suspected abuse and neglect among others, and bylaws.
Okay. Grievance. Busy? School improvement.
Yeah, I would like to take one more shot at a school improvement committee meeting for, if my committee members can make December 4th, Wednesday the 4th. You guys able to do that? Sorry.
Are you?
There's already what?
2 scheduled.
2 scheduled on the 4th? What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
What's on the?
Policy and personnel.
Policy and personnel.
When's this one?
The second, yeah, technically,
You're
you're
done.
done on the second.
Well, not technically, I don't think I am. I mean, is that really the rule?
Yeah, you take office as a city council member on the second, you have a meeting that night.
Yeah, oh, and that disqualifies me from having a meeting until I officially resign?
That's when you officially kick us to the curb for your political agenda.
But 15-minute meetings.
Yeah, yeah, it's much shorter meetings.
Really, I thought I had one, I thought until I officially resigned, and I could get one more meeting and follow through on things that have been started, but.
Once you take the other office.
Huh?
Once you take the other office, you're technically vacated.
Doesn't he have to?
Well, maybe this discussion will have to happen.
Does he have to, when does he have to notify the board that?
He has to formally resign before he takes the other position. And then the Democratic Town Committee has 60 days from the date that he vacates the seat, which is the second, to put a candidate to the rest of the board for approval.
Is that really in the charter or state statute or something?
It's in the charter.
Yeah, do that, all right. Fair enough.
Up to 60 days.
Up to 60 days. Yeah, you don't have to take 60 days. They can come up with
So
somebody
you
on
don't,
the 3rd.
you have to make your resignation before December 2nd.
December 2nd, okay. All right, fair enough.
Before 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
He'll be right in during the presentation.
Up until 12:59.
All right, budget.
We're ramping up. Part of it, you saw the efficiencies, we're starting there, figuring out how many people when the school year started, and now the hiring is essentially over. how many people we're left with. What that means for salaries is one of the few line items that we can pretty accurately gauge. So we're starting there. For the next board meeting, we're trying to, or for the next budget meeting, we're going to be hopefully finalizing what the early retirement incentive package would look like, assuming that there are net savings, which there will be. But if you want more information on that, Andrew, I know you're interested in it, that would be a good meeting to attend. But that's the first piece of the puzzle, and the thought process is to get that out as early as possible so we can know how many people are taking it, and know how much money we're going to save. I think that's it. That's where we're at.
Ed Connection.
Board of Directors met in Danbury this month on the 7th. The meeting didn't go as long as either the ride down or the ride back. What's going on with Ed Connection is that the Head Start, Early Head Start program is being evaluated by the feds. And in fact, they just left today. They came in on Sunday. And I met with them for a while on Monday as a member of the Board of Directors, and met with them yesterday with the rest of the Policy Council at Forest Court. Yeah, we call it Forest Court School now. And that seems to be going well, and the report won't come out for a while, but their ducks are really, really in line. And then the Policy Council is so serious, they're meeting the Tuesday before Thanksgiving is in fact our week. I just found out tonight, so yeah, things are busy. Things are going.
Okay. DHS oversight?
I'm still playing Madame Defarge on that one, with the hope that the outcome is a little bit different in my case than it was in hers, but it's a matter of just sort of watchful. So
Juvenile court?
I have nothing for you.
Nothing. All right, Turf Committee, taking Dave off the hot seat now. Thanks, Dave. They met on the 7th of November, and they selected a survey company to do a boundary survey of a topographical survey of the fields. They put an RFP out, or RFQ out, for design firms. They received many back. They picked 5 finalists that they're going to interview for 15 minutes apiece next Monday. And then they will be selecting a finalist for the design and coming up with a contract for that. And then moving ahead. So they're in a sprint. They're going pretty fast. Items for upcoming agenda. We have financial statements, committee reports, lawsuit updates, Connecticut State Statute 10-151. That's been under a while. Power School presentation with guidance. We talked about doing a Common Core, a breakdown of the Common Core standards so that everybody knows, instead of just the term Common Core, we actually have a working knowledge of it. Future meetings, Policy Committee, December 4th, Personnel, December 4th, Budget, the 11th, School Improvement, the 11th, regular board meeting is the 18th. Motion for adjournment.
So,
I'm going to give it to Betsy. Second, Dan, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Good.